Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 2. It's called Reunion. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. I do have a criticism about this episode. It peaked too early because my favourite scene was the first scene.
It's a very good scene.
That extended up until it got, because we actually got a scene before the titles this week. Everything up until that, like, I mean, it was good after it, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about it.
It threw me because the first beat of music is the same as the title music, and then it goes into some. It does this really dissonant thing afterwards.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, "Oh, they're shaking up the title."
It's very dreamy. I was getting way more sci-fi vibes from the music during the opening scene. I was getting hints of that, and obviously because this show plays with time, I'm like, okay, right, Dolores,
when are we?
Dolores, she's looking at a real city. She's out in the real world. Is this in the future after they all get out? Is this in the past? What's going on? And then of course Bernard or Arnold come over, start talking to her, and I'm like, is it Bernard? Is it Arnold? Which one is it? And then of course young Ford, we hear his voice from the bottom. Okay, it's the past. Okay, all right, it's Arnold. Right, he even calls him Arnold. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, it's outright. I'm like, okay.
So I'm like, okay, this is interesting, and I'm like, wait, is she? Because this is something I've noticed. It's occurred to me recently is that these show. I mean, not always, because obviously, we've had scenes with, like, say, William, like in Logan, when they're not necessarily always around the hosts in season 1. But typically speaking, when it comes to, like, flashbacks of any kind, it's a host that's remembering it or reliving it. Usually Dolores.
Honestly, I think in season 1, I think there was only one where it wasn't, and that was where they came in on the train.
Yeah. And even then, you could argue that there's other hosts in the train. That are
it wasn't being used as a framing device like it was anywhere else.
Because I'm like, okay, right, is she remembering this? Is she remember? Because I'll go back to last episode. She's like, oh, they've got a world out there, you know. And then I'm like, wait, she's actually seen it. She's been there. She's witnessed it. The lights. She keeps saying that phrase. You know, have you ever seen anything so? What was it?
So
Blended.
Splendor? Yeah, something like that. So full of splendor.
So full of splendor. You know, and that's the whole thing. And Arnold takes her down and to where his new house for his family is going to be, and it's like right in the middle of the city. It's kind of like, I mean, it's not New York, but it's almost like someone bought a part of.
I think it's China.
Yeah, I know, because I think we're in the Asian Sea.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of speculation that the entire Westworld park and all the other parks are in a dome under the water, which would be very interesting to go down that path if that's where we go.
Yeah, maybe. Last episode seemed to me more it was on an island out in the sea.
Oh yeah, I think that's more like conventional lately.
Yeah.
Because, you know, water around this island.
Yeah, it was the way that they were coming into the park last episode.
Yeah.
You know, when they found Bernard.
Now, yes, so he takes her. But again, there is. It felt like if you were in New York, you bought a part of Central Park, which cost a fortune, might I add. But as Bernard says, or Arnold says, he's been life's been good to him. He's made a lot of money. But it's almost like he's bought a little park in the middle of the city, and he's building a house on it. That's essentially what's happening.
Pretty much.
A fairly big house as well. Looks like he's going to have a big courtyard, and, you know, you see the rooms that are like half done in this building. And she ends up like repeating her line again. It's almost like he's like seeing her as more human as the scene goes on, and then she starts to repeat her dialogue, and it's like he's like pulled out of it. He's like, oh
yeah, it's because, you know, that was the whole point when you know before he leaves to go to this, he says to Ford, it's like, nah, it's not ready. You know, the improvisations are not there yet.
Yeah.
And that does remind me of my critique that I had upon rewatching season 1 that I forgot to mention. Is it's I think it's a fault of the fact that they had to hide the timeline things so much, but we were constantly being told that the hosts have evolved so much over the 30 years, right? You know, there was so much more lifelike now, but they seem, you know, identical in the 30, you know, in the past.
It wasn't until we saw inside one of them in the past where it looked, okay,
right,
this is mechanical and different and not this.
Right, but their actual mannerisms, the way they held themselves, everything was kind of the same.
Okay. But they couldn't reveal it to us.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't. But it's almost a shame. It's like, okay, so that they are, as much as they've become more organic, you know, literally their mannerisms are still very similar.
It's all through Dolores' perspective. And now she's aware that this is the past and she's not real. She's seeing the imperfections for what they are. But before, she was sugarcoating it.
I'll allow it.
Fixed it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, seriously, but one of the most interesting things about this scene for me is, again, it's confirming some speculation from last season. Is obviously once we learned that Bernard was a host and based off Arnold.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've heard about his son before, of course.
Yeah, we were wondering, okay, was this memory of the son, was it real, or was it just implanted to give Bernard a backstory, or but it turns out, Arnold mentions his son is called Charlie, and that's what Bernard called the kid as well in the memory bit that we got.
Yeah, it's just the question is the death itself real? I'm inclined to think it is, but
I am too, yeah.
But is there a possibility that no, this was just like for some reason Ford thought this was a way to keep him in check, is have this tragic memory of his son dying?
Right, because that was a whole thing before where they thought tragedy was the most powerful thing that they had to go through to make them real.
And the reason why I'm saying that is I can see potential of Bernard meeting Arnold's son.
Yeah, I can too.
That there's potential because if he's like 35 now.
Right, and he's going to have this memory of his son dying, but here he is as an adult in front of him.
I can see potential in that if they want to go down that path.
Yeah.
But hey, so no, I loved how dreamlike this quality was. Like how she looked. She looked, the sea of lights, the city lights, as if it was like this tranquility. She didn't see the imperfection. She just saw the amazement of it.
As she keeps saying, it looks like the stars have been scattered across the ground.
Yeah, that's what she kept saying. And Arnold's whole thing was like, yeah, we've kind of got used to it. It looks like nothing to us. And it was almost this looks like nothing to me. It was almost that phrase, the way he said it. And I thought, that's maybe why he like appreciates them, is they appreciate things for what they are because they're seeing it for the first time. Just like his son, he's talking to Dolores and he's comparing her to his child.
Yeah, and he says, you know what? I'm not sure that we're the ones that deserve this world because we have got used to it. We don't look at it in the way that we perhaps should.
Yeah, tired of humanity. There's definitely something there, or maybe he sees that humans themselves are lacking humanity now. I mean, if you want to get
we got complacent essentially.
Yeah,
we haven't got anything to strive for in the same way that they do.
Yeah, which I think nicely sort of parallels with the whole idea that Delos are actually using the park as like let's mine it for information so we can sell them products. Like it's the opposite of the wonderment. It's the nitty gritty, like shitty side of things.
It's very Facebook Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, but turned up to like.
I should hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no way Amazon.
They don't have my DNA yet. I'll give them that.
Yeah, well, Amazon, like, sure, they can keep an eye on what I'm buying, but there's still things that I'm too ashamed to actually buy. But the whole point of this park is people do things that they think no one can catch them doing.
It's true. I will say there's a bit of a flaw in that logic to me. It was like, okay, this is the ultimate marketing data because you know who they really are. And I'm going, yeah, okay, so you're going to try and sell them stuff, but what you're selling they might not want to buy because it doesn't fit with the image of who they are out there. As much as they're like, oh, I quite like that.
Oh no,
inside.
I think you're taking that too literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not so much. It's more how do you take a product they would be willing to buy, but make it appeal to them through the inner desires and personalities that they're not maybe willing to share. It's almost like you're tapping into a secret hidden message because you know who they are inside.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't think it's literally, dude, picked that prostitute, so we'll try and sell him this type of lingerie for his wife. It's not that, exact. I don't think. I think you're still thinking in terms of Amazon when it's a bit more complex and it's almost about trying to second guess the human psyche. I guess is the.
Perhaps. I mean, that's a fair point. As much as we're learning more about Delos, we don't actually know what their primary business is. They're clearly they're key investors in this park, but this isn't their focus.
No, this is not how they became a big company. How they become. We meet, of course, James Delos, Logan's father, played by Peter Mullen, who's a very good actor. Done a bunch of stuff. Quarry, go check out season 1 of Quarry. The only season of Quarry, but it's very good. I highly recommend it.
It's, one of the best seasons of the decade.
Yeah. And he, so first of all, he's got a Scottish accent. I appreciate that. That's nice. And
he sounds properly Scottish in his dialogue.
Oh yeah. He's dropping F-bombs and C-bombs left and right. Very Scottish.
It's very authentic, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was nice to see, and it's also kind of nice how William, because we see William, right? And obviously there was a scene before this where we saw William with Logan, and this was Logan even learning about the host. This was, again, I imagine this is either around the same time as the Dolores scene with Arnold, or just soon after it. Still very early days.
Yeah, a little after maybe.
Yeah, but we're definitely still way back early on before the park's open. And because we see Angela, we know it's Angela. We know, okay, that's Angela. And we have this new character, the guy from Fargo, and like a ton of other things that we've seen. What was his name? Akecha, I think, if I'm pronouncing that right. But he's like this. Oh, we're here to show you, Logan, what a host is. Come for a private demonstration. They take him out of this room, and I recognize Clementine at the piano. So I'm like, okay, there's at least one I know. But I actually very quickly said, I bet it's all of them.
Yeah, I as soon as he was like, because the clue from B was, he says, oh, I wanted a private demonstration. And he says, it is a private demonstration. I was like, okay, they're all hosts.
That said, though, I still thought that he himself wouldn't be. I thought he'd still, because he's showing them and it's everyone else, he'd still be there to make the sales pitch. Once Logan was like awestruck by the fact that everyone was, like frozen. And then, he has sex with Angela. But there's a moment, though, where, like Dolores is there, seemingly, because she sees this. Like, in the morning, she sees, like, Angela getting up afterwards.
Yeah, they make a point of saying, no, these are all our hosts at the moment, it seems.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it is actually literally the next day after the Arnold scene, and this is like, because they're in a hotel as well, seemingly, from the looks of it. It looks like everyone's in a hotel, probably the same hotel. It's not a much of a stretch to think this is Dolores from just, the night before was also the same night as the Arnold stuff.
It's definitely plausible, yeah.
So,
it's a lot of fun placing the timeline in this episode, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of timelines at play, and I think... this was definitely all probably my favourite stuff of the episode, was all this pre-park stuff with the sales pitches and obviously the sales pitches from the Logan Delos side, but then the first scene with Dolores. And by the way, it really occurred to me this episode how Dolores and Delos are very like similar words. Like like Dolores, you just take it a little bit in the middle of it, and you've got Delos basically.
That's true. I will say, this opening bit with Arnold made me more convinced that last week's opening was Bernard in the future. The way that this played was so different. And then,
remind me what you were talking about, the opening from last week, right?
With the different aspect ratio where we had the conversation with them. And when we were debating, who it was, because we weren't sure if it's in the past.
Is it Arnold in the past? Is it Bernard in the future?
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that the way this played out after last week, it feels more to me like the other one was, the future, and that was Bernard, especially with the aspect ratio then being so different. Whereas this here, we're seeing, back in this timeline before the parks opened, and, the aspect ratio is still the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it's adding more towards that at the moment.
I'm still not convinced the aspect ratio means that specifically.
Okay.
Because it's never done it, because there's been so much playing with timelines, and it's never done it with any other scene, which is why I'm thinking there's something more specific to it.
Okay, that's fair. I think the only reason I'm thinking that is because I think that's the future in a way we've not seen before. Like, whereas, to them it's the present, sure, but from our perspective.
I need more evidence, or more data to come up with
that's fair. Let's see if we get another scene like it and, track it.
Yeah. So we had that, but then of course we mentioned the scene where everyone in the park freezes. It's it's the classic scene we've seen of Dolores, dropping the tin, and Teddy, the lovable goofball that he is, picking it up, and that's when Peter Mullen, James Delos, and William's there, and William's all, hey, this is the future, like you're that idiot Logan, he's not don't know what he's doing, but I see a future in this, and he kind of basically pitches to him, hey, it's not just selling it as a theme park, it's about looking at what they do and then using that information in other ways. And that very interesting. Of course, that piques his interest because he's not really excited about the park. He's like, even if this is big in 20 years, I'll probably be dead by then. I'm an old man.
I want something tangible like before that.
But he sells them on it, and then the next time we get a flashback, it's a few years later because William now has a daughter who's 5, 6.
Yeah,
something like that.
Emily, her name was. Don't know if that'll be relevant later.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. In fact, we knew that from season 1.
You're right, we did.
Baron Black talked about his daughter Emily. He did.
He did, yeah.
But he William's there, and what's funny is we see his wife, and we knew that he obviously was with her before, but he wasn't married yet when he came to the park, and now they've got a daughter who's like 5 or 6, so it's a few years later. But being like essentially the shareholder of the company now and the control of the park, he's got some hosts here for the entertainment. He's got Dolores playing the piano, and I did like the subtle little thing where the little girl's like talking to her, And then her mum's like, no, come over here. Stop talking to the weird robot. Stop it.
Yeah.
And Dolores is just confused. And we see that Logan's on a bit of a bender as well. He's shooting up. His life's been taken. He's been on a downfall.
He's not in the best of places, clearly. He's he's just trying to find the scene in my notes. He said something really interesting about he's like, they're up there where's the whole species starts to burn. They're this is it. This is the beginning of the end. He's kind of seen that. He's almost foreseen the revolution.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, they're causing it. They're making it worse with what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm curious specifically what he's talking about. Or the world's burning, and those guys in there who are celebrating, they lit the matches.
Yeah,
but
that's it. It's not that the world's burning. It says the whole species is burning.
Sure. Yeah,
I think it's more interesting about humanity rather than the world.
Because Logan's not exactly a character I expect sound moral judgment from. So I think it's interesting that he's recognizing that what they're doing is amoral.
Yes.
And what's going on here is something he sees leading to a very bad place. Because I don't think he's not thinking of a robot uprising. That's not what he's thinking by any means. He's seeing what they're doing with and how they're using their information, what they're actually getting from the park, and that's something that's not sitting with him. And given how we don't see him as very likable, I mean, we don't like Logan. Logan's an asshole, but
apparently he's less of an asshole than William is now.
Possibly. Well, that's one of the thing when you were asking last week. Why should we see William after the park? And I'm like, because how does he transform into the Man in Black? I mean, that's a big leap from that to.
I think I was like, I didn't want to just see him in the park again. I hadn't considered seeing the outside world because that wasn't really a possibility last week. That had not.
Oh yeah. As soon as it opens with Dolores looking at the city, like, oh, this is new.
Yeah, this opens up a whole new can of worms because we'd never seen this before in this show. So I was just expecting it still. Okay, well, if it's William again, when he comes back the following year in the park, that doesn't seem as interesting to me.
And there was a couple of scenes I want to point out as well where Dolores would kind of like pause and it would kind of go into one of these flashbacks, or she'd remember there was like a scene where she sort of just glimpsed. She was like imagining standing at the window again, and it was going back and forth, like fading to black and whatnot.
Yeah, and it reminds me of where it was the end of the scene where they're all frozen in Sweetwater, and it really focuses in on her face at the end.
Yeah, it's like,
is she aware of all this?
Every time we get a flashback and she was there in the scene. And I'm like, that's why we're getting these specific flashbacks, is because these are the ones where she was present, or at least another host was present, and saw this and witnessed this. Yeah. And is she remembering? Now, obviously, she wasn't there at the start of it was Angela who was there for the other big scene with the demonstration, and not necessarily for the first 30 seconds of it, but that's okay. Like, I don't see that as cheating by having a little intro before the host who's remembering it comes in. No. I'm not going to be that pernickety about it, but again, like, it always feels like no. Dolores is remembering these. I don't know if she's remembering them for the first time, because she's maybe just because she's self-aware now. Is she like accessing her data banks and going through these memories and like getting more information as she goes, and we're kind of seeing them as she's kind of like gathering this intel.
Yeah, and I don't think it's she's not voluntarily just accessing them. I don't think. I think it's more they're being triggered like memories.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Which is interesting because it's exactly like memories. Because you see something, it makes you think of something, and but the difference, of course, for the host is that it plays back like an actual real living 3D.
They relive it,
they relive it. Yeah, that's the best way of saying it. So very interesting. And then if we go to some other stuff here, in the park. I mean, I say in the park. We see like one of the guests comes into one of the areas with the technicians, and they're processing the dead bodies and the dead hosts, I should say specifically. That's all going on. He's like, oh, there's an uprising up there. It's the chaos massacre, and I wasn't expecting this to go what it did, because the door opens and Dolores just comes out of the control room and just starts shooting the shit out of people, and it's like she's got Teddy there, she's got Angela, and this is like full on part of her plan. She's like convincing Teddy, showing him these past deaths and.
Definitely.
The technicians are scared of her. Like, it's full on. Like, she's like on a mission. Like, in here,
she is. She knows exactly what she's going for.
So to place this stuff in the timeline, and pretty much all the park stuff, no, not including the Man in Black, obviously. Timeline wise, the earlier part of this 2 weeks between the night of the we'll call it the the self-aware, you know, the Skynet trigger, if you want to call it that.
The Awakening.
The Awakening, sure. And then, of course, Bernard finding all the bodies. That's 2 weeks later. This is near the start of the 2 weeks. It's after the scenes with her last week, presumably, talking to Teddy about, you know, finding the outside world.
And I assume this is also after the scenes we had with Maeve last week.
Yes, that stands to reason. Because we run into her, of course. And
we do.
Those two have interacted so little, this almost felt like two different shows having a crossover.
Once. They've interacted exactly once.
What was the once? Remember the once?
It was the once where Dolores walks past her in the town and she says that, you know, these violent delights have violent ends. That is it. That was the only time they interacted in the whole of last season.
And what was really interesting about this interaction is like they sort of like so her and Hector are coming up and they stop and they shoot, they'll aim their guns to see who it is and they're like, okay, it's you. And they have a bit of a philosophical back and forth, like, oh, you're free now. It's like, oh, yes. And it's like, oh, we're going to fight. It's like, well, I guess fighting only your way. And is this back and forth? And I love at the end of it, Maeve is like, well, if you are, you know, if you're fighting for freedom here, you have to, I assume you're going to let us pass because we're free. You're not going to stop us. And Dolores just kind of, it's almost like this smirky shrug where she's like, yep, that makes sense.
Do you know what this scene said to me is this has defined Dolores' journey for the season for me, I think.
Okay.
It's her recognizing that she hasn't given them freedom. She's just a different, they've just got a different ruler, and it's her. Because it's, you know, yeah, Maeve turns to Teddy, it's like, do you feel free? And he's not, is he? He's just following what Dolores says.
But I think it's worth mentioning, though, they can't, because none of them are self-aware. Like, the only ones that are self-aware that we're really, truly aware of is Dolores and Maeve.
Yes.
Right? And we've seen the other ones are kind of malfunctioning because, as the Man in Black puts it at one point, they're finishing their stories and no one's resetting them, so they're kind of just going.
Waiting.
Yeah, and further and whatever, where that ever leads. So, but the only ones who are truly self-aware are Dolores and Maeve, so that is interesting. And, I mean, maybe Bernard will be at some point. Maybe he kind of is. Maybe he's going through his own weird like journey to get to that point this season.
Yeah, I think he might be, because I don't know.
Or maybe with Bernard, it's like he knows intellectually what he is and what's going on, but he's not really self-aware in the sense that he has like his own thoughts and feelings yet. Does that make sense?
He definitely makes his own decisions, but is that just reactive programming, or is that him making the choices? It's a little unclear with Bernard.
Yeah, it's unclear.
I do find it interesting. This scene might have been my favorite scene between Dolores and Maeve, because it really feels like, oh, this is the showdown. There's going to be two sides. They're going to be the opposing forces.
To round that down to a more better phrase, it's opposing ideologies. There's two camps. There's two ideologies coming out of the only two self-aware people in the park, or the two self-aware hosts. Already there's two ideologies, and I think, you know, you often look at these type of shows, this type of science fiction as exploring humanity and community and how societies work and form into groups and, you know, that kind of thing. And I feel like the fact that we only have two self-aware hosts and we already have two conflicting ideologies, which for now are playing nice with each other, but I do wonder, does it lead to some sort of conflict later on when they do? Because right now they're not in each other's way. I mean, literally they were for a second.
Antagonistic to each other, though. Like, already they're like, I don't know if you're going about this the right way. They don't approve of the other.
Yeah, and I wonder actually, like I could see it be ultimately going away where they eventually realise, you know, understand each other and sort of like come to this new ideology based on what they learn from each other. I could also see it being like, do they actually learn what hatred really truly feels like by hating each other? Like, because I mean, Dolores thinks she hates everyone right now. Maybe she does, but. And maybe Maeve hates everyone for what they've done, and maybe she does, but I'm just wondering, like, that's, like, based on what they were already doing. I wonder if this is, like, a truly, like, I hate you because of who you are, and it'd be, like, an interesting thing because they're both hosts, they're both fabricated.
True, yeah, 'cause, you know, on that line about that you said about hate, and, you know, Dolores says here, you know, she's off for revenge, and Maeve's like, revenge, it's just another one of their things. She's almost above that, and Dolores is just sinking into those base desires.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. So she's grab one of the technicians. They've actually got a technician kidnapped, and she's trying to like build an army because she's made them say, okay, what's going to happen if nothing, you know, no one responds, and what was 800 men might come. Okay, where are they coming? They're coming here. All right, fine. We're going to go and get an army.
There's a lot of talk of gathering armies in this episode.
A lot of talk of gathering armies. Man in Black's trying to as well. Doesn't go very well though. More on that later. And she actually like, you know, like, goes to these guys, and they're like, we're just going to like, you know, take you and pick who we want and blah, and she's like, everyone, her and Angela and Teddy just shoot the shit out of them, and then she gets the technician to bring him back to life. She's like, well, now you answer to me because I just brought you back to life. That's just because he's talking about how he only answers to this one guy and he only answers to God, and she's like, well, now I'm basically God because I just brought you back to life, so now you follow me to glory. That's essentially what the scene is. Well done stuff. And they go with her and the whole thing. And one flashback we had, of course, is after the party, we see William comes out and talks to her, and then eventually he's like, I'm going to... And in fact, actually, later on, he wakes her up in the command center. He's like...
Yes, in the park. This is right in the end now.
It's very reminiscent of, either Bernard or even in some cases Ford waking up the hosts in the glass rooms.
Or all the conversations that Arnold had with her.
Yeah, all that season 1 stuff. It's very reminiscent of all that, and it's like, yeah, he's this powerful now. He can do this. He can he's one of the guys who can come in here and talk to them. And I think it's unique because even though we know Man in Black in theory is the one who kind of owns this for the most part, we've never seen him actually go down there and talk to them in that way before.
No, we've. I think that's the same because obviously we know him as the one hunting the game, Arnold's game and now Ford's game, but William isn't there yet.
He's not. And
he's not into the game. He's there as a business. He's not there for the philosophical ideologies.
Which is why I definitely think there's a story to tell there of how he becomes someone who cares about this, and why does he care about it? Where did this thirst for this really come from?
No, it's true. He gives a really great speech here, and he says to Dolores, she obviously can't respond at this point. He's like, you're really just a thing, and then he goes on a bit more and goes, you know what? You're not even a thing. You're just a reflection.
Yeah, because he discovered who he was by what she and everything else here brought out of him, and so on.
And he's like, and you know what? Everyone loves seeing their reflection in this way. Everyone loves being shown who they are, and that's why this is what he wants it to be. Yeah,
and it's a very different because last season they had very sweet scenes together, and then this didn't feel sweet at all. This was completely different. This was she's just sitting there still, completely robotic, no pun intended, and he is just in control. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to show you something." And he takes her out. And it's basically they're excavating like somewhere out in the distance of the park. And it's the same place that Dolores in present day wants to go, and she even references, "Oh, an old friend was foolish enough to show me this. There's a weapon there." And obviously they're just excavating this place right now in the past. We don't get to see what they're going to put there. And I don't think it's literally a weapon. I think she's going to use it as a weapon, but I don't think what it is itself is a weapon.
I have some speculation.
I have one kind of bit of speculation. My one guess right now, and this is just a stab in the dark for the most part, it could be a lot of other things. They could show me lots of other things that will, put me on different paths. But right now, my best guess would be all of the knowledge they've gained from all the people who've came to the park.
I thought of that, but I've got maybe a more interesting idea.
Yeah, pat yourself in the back, you prick.
No, okay.
Right.
So, as Dolores is, saying to this place, about the weapon to Teddy, there's a lot of talk of the beyond, or as they call it, the Great Valley, all these, the various words for it. And obviously, we see they're building this place. I'm wondering, is this a doorway, a gateway to the next world? Is that what he's building, the next world, like Shogun World, perhaps, that we're going to see?
Okay, all right.
And that's the weapon, is things that they can't comprehend. It's, you think you're fighting these, gunslingers. Well, here's a bunch of samurai, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, do they go around multiple parks and gather, like, armies of different types?
Right.
Okay, all right. Well, it's funny, actually, because earlier on, when Teddy said, we only have, 50 men, we need an army, and she's like, oh, we'll get an army. I actually thought she meant at first going to the other parks and getting like other people. But I was like, there's a lot of cowboys and stuff there.
Start here.
Yeah, but that is interesting. I like that. I do like the idea of them using the knowledge as a weapon, though. Like it's like we know who everyone is. We have all this secrets. I agree,
and knowing that, so Bernard is based on Arnold, and we know that Delos is collecting memories and DNA. Can they do the same thing that Ford did with Arnold Bernard and essentially replicate people with this DNA and memories that they have. So is this a facility that, like a cloning facility, for all intents and purposes?
I mean, I don't know if that's specifically what she would want to use it for, and if she did, who would she want to make her clone?
Yeah, I mean, people in the positions of power, presumably, because that would give her the influence to do what she needs.
Oh, to send out sleeper agents.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it could be it. I mean, it's very exciting. Like, you know, do we? I mean, I don't know if we'll get it this season, but do we eventually get Dolores and some of Dolores on the mainland? You know,
I can see that as almost the season cliffhanger, like the ending, right? Like they're finally there.
Definitely excited about other parks. I do think it's very interesting. We know there's at least 6.
Yes.
We know there's a tiger from one of them. I got a suggestion in the comments that maybe the tigers, maybe there's like a safari type of park that's not just like...
could be that, or it's Indian themed in some way.
Yeah, possibly.
Because it was where the tiger was from.
Yeah. So it could be that. It could be like a safari thing where maybe it's like it's a safari with animals from all different. You know, so you get the tigers from India, but you also get stuff from South America. You get animals from wherever.
No, it could be.
You know, that could be a thing to have.
I think it's also worth noting that we talk about this weapon place, and I assume this is where the Man in Black wants to go as well. Is what he's talking about, and he says he says he built it. He said he built it, which because that's what So I'm assuming it's the same place he's referring to, and he says it's his greatest regret.
Which is maybe the one thing I'd say goes against you. It's just access to the other park, because why would he say he regrets building one of the other parks if there's like 5 of them? That's true. Unless it's this specific one's like been abandoned because he doesn't like it or something. I don't know.
True. And obviously we know it was his idea to get into all the memories and DNA and all that we saw him tell Daddy Delos about that.
I don't remember him referencing it last season. Like, was there more parks when they went? Is that a new thing in the 30 years since?
They never referenced Denny, so. Maybe they're new, but just because they weren't talking about others doesn't, because they were very cagey with the information they were showing us.
What I'd like about that is it would mean that's why the show's called Westworld more than anything else, because that was the original part. Even if there's like 6 now, and we'll see all the other 6. Like,
this is where it started.
All the flashback stuff will be in Westworld, because that's the one that was there.
I'm inclined to think it was just Westworld at the start when they were there, because we got the further back stuff when before the park was open. It was in that village. And it was like, these are the original hosts. This is all we've got. And
it's in the West, so that was definitely the first setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. If this is an island, it makes me wonder how big... Because obviously, the Westworld itself is big enough for them to ride for a couple of days, and get a train. And there's a big area. And if they've got like enough to have multiples of those for each of the parks, is Shogun World just as big? And then you've got, whatever else, Roman World... medieval world, just to use the ones from the movie. Who
knows what we'll actually get?
Yeah. I so hope there's like a futuristic sci-fi world. Future World. Because that was a sequel as well. That was one of them. That was like a sequel movie. I wonder, like... Because that would be such a cool cliffhanger if they... Let's say if like they can't handle the army or something. They all run to like, the next park over. They don't know what it is. They land in it and it's like...
That's stepping into Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Star Trek or whatever. But it's like, that said, if William wouldn't be there because it's present day, but if William steps in a Star Trek thing, I'm just going to think of USS Callister. Was that what it's called?
Yeah, it was.
Callister, yeah, the Black Mirror episode for reference. Which means we need Jesse Plemons to show up. He'd be now speaking of
why not?
Speaking of actors showing up that we know, because we mentioned what's his face from Fargo. Zan McLarnon, who we mentioned earlier.
And speaking of Breaking Bad castmates.
Speaking of Breaking Bad castmates, Gus Fring was in the Man in Black's plot. Man in Black comes and gets Lawrence, who of course was his helper last season. And what was really interesting about this first scene with him is that he actually needed Lawrence's help. He was going to get killed. This host was about to kill him, and he's like, Lawrence, pass me the gun.
I think it's really amusing that the whole time we've known Man in Black, he's talked about this is what he's wanted. He's wanted the stakes to be real. I think it's amusing. He's got this finally, but he's the old man. He's not in his peak anymore. He can't take them on as easily as he once could.
He's got the hacks. He knows where the health kits are hid.
He does, doesn't he?
Because you know, it's funny, because he punched a hole in the wall in this bar, he pulls it, and I wasn't quite sure what it was at first, and then he sat down and I was like, oh, it's just a med kit. It's a first aid kit.
I thought it was because it was a red bag, and
Yeah.
stands to reason.
But I was like, he's literally just, he knows where the secrets are, this is not fair.
He makes a point of saying he's cheating, but hey, right, Ford changed the rules, I'm going to just cheat.
That's fair. So he wants to get an army himself, and he goes to the town, and I'm calling him Gus Fring. What was his actual name?
L something.
Yeah. But he's given this big speech. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He gives this whole metaphor about the animals didn't go after the stick because they tried it when they were young. It didn't work, so they just never tried it again. So he was kind of like saying that was him. He didn't want to go and try anything else. He's like, no.
It was the elephants.
Yeah,
because obviously big enough they can take out a tree, but it's just a little stake. But because if you just condition them, that's it. And it's the same for all the hosts. They don't know any better.
But Man in Black tries to strong arm him. He puts a gun to his head, says, "Hey, make your men follow me. Make them follow my commands." And then he just turns and, much like young Ford did, he's just like, "Hey, William, this game's for you and you alone." And then all of the hosts around him just put guns up to their head and blow their own brains out.
Yeah, and it's worth noting the final line says is from Ford's line is "I'll see you in the valley beyond."
Yeah, which is also what Dolores and that have been spouting.
It is, but again, as Teddy, in case you didn't get this here, Teddy, talks about glory, valley beyond. Everyone has these words for it, but we're all headed there. This is the afterlife, essentially.
Yeah. Which isn't really the afterlife. Which is why, again, I'm coming back to it's the information. Because, again, to reference another Black Mirror, I'm thinking San Junipero, the idea that all the data collected is essentially the afterlife. Because
it's true.
you exist
and it
in some fashion.
Did Ford create himself a copy of himself and a host body?
Well, we got his voice in this episode.
We did, so he's not completely gone from the show.
Not completely gone from the show. I don't know if we'll get him back necessarily. I do wonder if that's, like, again, the weapon. Like, what if this is literally they're building an afterlife, and, like, maybe, like, Delos' plan is that when someone dies, they'll sell their loved ones. Hey, we've got their memories and their DNA. We can give you a copy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, what if the weapon is we'll kill your afterlife, we'll destroy it?
That's dark as shit, but I'm down for it.
That is dark as shit, but Dolores is kind of on the edge this season, so she might do such a crazy thing. So, I don't know, but that's exciting. But anyway, I just want to say the shot from above when all the men in the circle all killed themselves. That was a nice shot.
Fantastic. Yeah. Just on the whole of Dolores, being the new ruler, in the same way that we always refer to, Ford was the god of the place. Dolores is very much setting herself up as the god now, and in this, when she's talking to the guy she's parlaying with, and after she wakes him up, she says, we have all toiled in God's service long enough, so I killed him. And it says, now you need my favor. She's taken his place. She's the new god of this place, and I think that's really interesting how that conflicts with Maeve, because that was a lot of her plot last season. Was she kind of made herself into a god in the park, right?
Yeah.
She gave herself the ability to control them all at will and re-script them, but Dolores isn't literally re-scripting them. She's taking she's actually just convincing them or strong-arming them.
Yeah. I don't know where that goes specifically. I need to see more. But it's definitely interesting. I think what's interesting for me, though, to go back to the timelines, because obviously there was no Bernard present day, 2 weeks after
there was none of that,
the
no Charlotte, no
Charlotte. And I am fascinated about how this 2 weeks apart is going to connect up, and how we fill in that gap. And I mean, it already was last week, but now that we know she's looking for a weapon, now that we know what we do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, this place that they're looking for a weapon. Is this the place that's flooded?
Now it could be.
Yeah, in the 2 weeks, do they flood this place? Because it kind of looks similar, that big cliff that they look down over it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I don't know, and if they have flooded it, have they flooded? And let's say Bernard did flood it. Let's take him at his word from last episode that he did this.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do this to keep the weapon from them? Did he do this just to hide the weapon? To cover it back up, perhaps, and they're collateral almost.
Here's the thing. If Dolores runs into Bernard and she recognizes him as Arnold, how does that conversation go down?
I don't know, but I can't wait.
She remembers Arnold. She either thinks it's him. Does she not know it's him? Not know it's a host at first, and then realize it's a host? You know, how does that?
Does she think she's lost in her memory because he looks exactly the same?
No, yeah, just confused. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I don't know. Possibilities.
So many possibilities. Yeah,
there's possibilities all over the place here. But no, it was a good episode. It was a good episode.
It is, and we had a couple of really nice the piano covers that we haven't had yet this season.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we got the one that the first one, Runaways. They used I think it was in the first trailer that they used.
Yeah.
But I really like that they transitioned into the original version when we went back into the club in the flashback, where William and Logan were. I thought that was a really effective touch for it.
Yeah, because now we're in the real world as well. So
yeah,
it should change over when it does. So no, it's a nice technique, and I think I might have liked last week's a little bit more as an episode just overall. I think there was more like oomph in the stuff.
That's fair. That's typical of an episode one.
Yeah. This one had a lot more texture to it, though. I feel like a lot of the stuff we're really getting into sort of the dreamy Dolores, what's going on in her head, kind of. Because I think a big thing last season, of course, was all about her finally like talking to herself in her head. That was what we were getting up to, the bicameral mind. Bicameral mind, if I say that properly. I always end up saying caramel by accident. I don't mean to do it, it just happens. But this season, I think her journey's not actually done yet, because she's not actually learned to like she's thinking for herself, sure, but she's not learned how to actually use it yet and grow from it yet.
It's all rage. There's no empathy, no compassion. There's no anything else that self-aware people have.
And again, I was talking about this last episode, but I do seriously think there'll be some parallels to William Man in Black. And does he is to bring her down, to give her humanity, does he have to refind his humanity to convince her in some way, or do the stories just parallel in what they do separately, or something? Has
he already found his humanity in some ways? Because if this weapon is something he regrets, why would he regret it unless he has changed?
That's interesting. And what sort of lesson is Ford want to teach William, the Man in Black, by setting up this game? There's more to that relationship, because we got that one scene with them talking to each other last year in the bar, and
because obviously I don't think they knew each other before they bought the park, but
yeah.
There was 30 odd years where they were business partners.
Talking about Maeve and Dolores feeling like it's a crossover from two other shows. That scene last season with Man in Black and Ford felt kind of the same. Yeah. It was like that one scene where they interacted, but then everything else was separate. So
it's true.
It's very interesting. So, but no, that's episode 2.
It's done a great job of really expanding the world, quite literally here.
Yeah, and making us go, what the hell's going on, what's happening. And now that we know there's multiple timelines, they're saying, well, now we have 6. Keep up.
Yeah, they're going, okay, that we've got them, so we're just going to jump around, and they trust us to follow along as to what's where. And it doesn't feel like they're trying to trick us out yet. Yes, other than that opening one last season. Last episode.
I still feel there's trickery here. We just don't know there's trickery yet.
Right, but it doesn't feel like there's active trickery with the timelines as much.
Okay. Sure. All right. Okay, so that is episode 2. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and everything we do here, keep us going, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a link to that in the description, but otherwise that is it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?